We've got our first official look at Disney's upcoming live-action Snow White, and it's looking a lot better than you all expected. All the details right here. The live-action remake of Walt Disney's premiere animated feature, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, has been subject to a lot of fairly reactionary and manufactured controversy of late. Firstly, the casting of Snow herself was target of much terminally online scorn from the alt-right wing of the fandom, annoyed that Rachel Zegler, a Latino woman, had been cast as the character who is described in the text as white as snow, something that doesn't really need to be taken literally. Next, Zegler faced backlash for making some pretty banal statements about how and why the movie, based on a 90-year-old movie, in turn based on a 200-plus-year-old Germanic fairy tale, was being updated for modern audiences. Some pretty nasty and, quite frankly, racist rumours even swirled that because of her fiery statements, Zegler had been fired from the production and replaced by Jenna Ortega. And finally, the internet almost imploded on itself when these set photos leaked just a few months ago, featuring a Zegler stand-in alongside the 7 actors purportedly hired to play the film's dwarf-like characters. And before you try to tell me that these images are fake, Disney did actually come out and confirm that these pictures were real. But today, all of these criticisms and fake controversies can be quashed as we finally get our very first look at Disney's live-action Snow White, confirming that not only is Zegler still our one and only live-action Snow, but the film will in fact feature the more traditional dwarfs from the original movie, utilizing CGI, and that it will be set in the original time period instead of taking place in the modern day. The image features Zegler as Snow sitting in the dwarves' cabin with all our favourite little guys. If I may say so myself, Zegler looks gorgeous as Snow White, and I genuinely think that this is perfect casting. She has the classic look, a stunning voice, a demure exterior, yet a feisty interior personality. She's set to deliver a performance with a bit of punch and a bit of fire, and I don't want to hear any complaints about that because I've lost count of the number of times that people have written on any video I've ever done about Snow White telling me how boring she is. And that does come down to a main character who, in the original movie, is, to be honest, quite a basic character and is honestly quite a bit of a pushover. It'd be nice to see her given a little bit of a spark. Walt Disney's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs released in cinemas in 1937, and the story and character quite obviously reflect the time period in which the film was made. The movie stands on its own as one of the most incredible feats of American filmmaking, and still holds up as one of the greatest animated features of all time. But it's no secret that a lot of the film's themes and depictions are outdated in 2023. Though I am a Disney purist, I believe in the art of storytelling and being able to retell stories for new generations and new audiences over time. For this reason, I believe the Disney live actions do serve an important purpose, even though their quality is questionable at times. These movies exist for the exact same reason that Walt Disney himself retold age-old fairy tales in the animated art form. And out of the entire Disney canon, Snow White is certainly the film that deserves a modern workover. The original still exists, and in a gorgeous new unaltered 4K restoration to marvel at for the rest of time. And going by this first look, I think this is a pretty good start. It's a little difficult to figure out which dwarf is which here, but the obvious ones are an aptly looking grumpy, Dopey, who looks just absolutely hilarious, Doc, an elderly looking dwarf with the glasses, this jolly looking guy is almost certainly happy, and this has got to be Sleepy, considering he's the only dwarf wearing a sleeping cap. The final two are anyone's guess, as the hat colours of pretty much all the dwarves have been changed, but this guy looks like he's run down with a little bit of hay fever, so he's probably sneezy, and that just leaves this almost pervy looking guy as Bashful. I'm pretty happy with how all the dwarves have turned out, and I'm glad they've gone with a more traditional, fantastical look for them all. I will be honest, I would have been a little bit disappointed if it just turned out the dwarves are a bunch of just guys hanging around a cabin. I'm all for them changing things in these movies, but some of the more iconic elements, they just gotta stay how they are. Verdict is still out on how good the CGI will actually look on these characters, as it is often hit and miss with these bigger Disney features, but we should know once we actually see some footage in movement. I'm not too concerned just yet, but let's just wait for the trailer. At that, it is worth pointing out that once again, we have another example of the fandom just losing their minds before actually seeing official product. My best guess is, and always has been, that this crew was simply on-set stand-ins for the dwarves that were set to be CGI'd later on. Leaked on-set images are never indicative of a final product, and people just gotta learn to just chill instead of manufacturing online rage. I know it gets clicks, but please, just calm down. There are, of course, some online punters who have suggested that the entire film has been reworked and refilmed based on the backlash, but as this movie has been in production for quite some time, and filming has been delayed for most of the year due to the various Hollywood strikes, I don't really see this as being anything viable. It would astronomically raise the budget of the film, making it even harder to break even at the box office than The Little Mermaid, which incurred enormous production costs due to COVID delays. Disney is not pulling in the kind of money that they were on these, 5 or 6 years ago, so they have to make some really smart decisions. Restarting fresh, refilming the entire film is not a smart decision. Disney's Snow White was set to open on March 22, 2024, but has also just been confirmed to be getting delayed by 1 whole year, now releasing on March 21, 2025. Do not take this as any confirmation of any reworking on the film though, as almost the entirety of Disney's upcoming slate has been pushed forward by 6 to 12 months due to the ongoing Hollywood strikes. That includes Marvel, Lucasfilm, Pixar, and 20th Century films too. In fact, it's just been announced that Pixar's Elio, which was also due for release in 2024, has also been delayed until 2025 along with Snow White. The film, directed by the amazing Spider-Man's Mark Webb, is also set to star Gal Gadot as the Evil Queen. However, we haven't got our first look at her in the role just yet, but I think she's gonna kill it as well. I can't wait for that one. Again, it is hard to make a fully informed opinion on something like this based on one single image, but I'm actually really quite happy with what we've got here. Zegler looks great as Snow, the dwarfs look great too, though I'm still waiting to see what they look like in action before I come to my final opinion on that one. Snow White is one of my top Disney films of all time, and so far, this is shaping up to be exactly what I want to see out of this remake. It might be some time until we get an actual trailer for this one or any more images, particularly given that the movie is now being pushed into 2025, but I will of course be right here with all the news on updates as it drops in. But until then, I want to know your thoughts on our first looks at Disney's live-action Snow White. Love it, hate it? As always, join the conversation down below.